everyone, welcome to Mom Talks. Happy Friday everyone, and we are happy to have you along with us. And today we are going to be talking about babysitting. And I've been thinking a lot about this because my husband is taking me out tomorrow and I am so excited. And we have our faithful babysitter. If you're watching, hi, you're the best. So she's going to be coming tomorrow, and so we're going to be talking about babysitters. And so I have Stacy Rogers with me, and she's one of our instructors for babysitting. And Stacy, a lot of people, in the St. Louis area, we were talking about this, have family in the area, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles that can jump in and watch kiddos, but I don't. And so whenever husband and I want to take those rare times away, we need to call a babysitter. And so if you're like me and you don't have family in the area, or if you just want to have a good babysitter in your back pocket for when grandma, grandpa, aunts, and uncles can't jump in and help, then this episode's for you. Reminder, we're taking questions, so if you hear something, you want to clarify it, or you want to ask a further question, please go ahead, write those in. We'll get those going during this episode. So I think personally the hardest thing about getting a good relationship with a babysitter is actually finding a babysitter.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to find, so a lot of places to go though.
Okay.
Churches, family.
That's good.
I think the number one place is really word of mouth.
Really?
Is really hearing. Absolutely.
So if I find this babysitter and maybe my friend recommends her to me or anything like that, what qualities should I be looking at? I mean, just because my friend says she's great, I'm sure she's great, but what should I be asking it as far as doing my due diligence as a parent?
You want to talk to them about what kind of training they have. What have you done? Have you taken a CPR class? Have you taken a babysitting class? First aid. That way if something happens while you're gone, your child's going to be taken care of. So you want to ask about those kinds of things.
Yeah, and you also might just ask other questions about situational things. Are you comfortable with feeding my child? Are you comfortable with nap times? Especially if you've got a real little one down there.
Right. Routines are really important, and we talk about that. It's part of the communication piece that we talk about as well in class. We want to make sure that they're communicating with the parents and finding out what are the routines, where are things located in the house. So really sitting down and having a good conversation with the parent.
Let's talk about having that conversation. So what are some the nitty-gritty things to talk about? I'm talking even just things like, how do I have a conversation about paying a babysitter? Or, do I need to drive you somewhere? Or are you going to bring your own car? So what are those just knick-knacky little questions?
Yeah, well, you hit a couple of them,
okay.
Right? So what do you charge? And they should come back with, what are you expecting from me too, though? Right? How many children do you have? Do we have pets in the house? Do you want them to clean up in the kitchen after the kids go to bed? Different things like that.
So it shouldn't just be an expectation that, if my kids are playing, you can fold my laundry or do my dishes. It's just about the relationship.
Absolutely, that communication piece.
So getting back to the paying, is there, I know it's so subjective, but what are you telling your babysitters as far as what to expect being paid?
So right now we talk about averages, and we average for one child, no other responsibilities, $7 an hour. Again, that's average. So again, it's a conversation about what makes sense. And if you find a good babysitter, more times than not, you're going to pay them a lot better than that. You want to make sure you keep them.
I'm very much a fan of the phrase, you get what you pay for. So, if the babysitter's doing a good job and I trust her with my kids,
Absolutely. It's an important job.
And do you recommend that before a babysitter even gets started with your family to maybe have them come by?
Absolutely. A lot of times, depending on the age of the kids, they go through separation anxiety. And it's a lot easier to have the babysitter come in and kind of, first of all, understand the house, right? Get a tour and find out where things are, but meet the kids. Have a chance to interact with them before they just come over and mom and dad go out the door and leave you with this person. So.
Right. And then you also talk about, what about having them just hang out with your kids for a little bit?
Absolutely. That's a great way for them to feel more comfortable and get to know the babysitter. Absolutely.
And how important is their feedback if they're old enough to talk and communicate to you?
I think it's huge. It's important. You want them to be enjoying their time while you're gone too.
I always know when I had a babysitter come, it was kind of fun, it's somebody to play with me all night.
Absolutely, because it's all about you then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, again, some other questions you might want to talk to your babysitter about. So let's talk about, in case of an emergency, in case of life happening. So What are some questions as far as health and safety that you should be asking your babysitter?
So you want to understand what they've been taught already. You want to talk about your emergency plan in your house. You know, what happens if there's a fire? What happens if there's bad weather? What happens if the child is choking? What is, so actually included in the class, we have this little emergency card, and that helps them walk through questions with you so they don't forget anything.
So what information is on this card?
So we're talking about poison control, police, doctors, maybe a neighbor also that they can get in contact with as well.
And then I see that you've got some contact numbers as far as just your just your phone number.
Absolutely.
So as far as talking to them about, here's when I want to be contacted, because some parents want to know the moment the kid scrapes their knee, others say,
Absolutely.
hey, I'm on a date night, unless it's an emergency, leave me be. So can you talk to me a little bit about, understand about that conversation to have?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, what we're training them to do is sit down and talk to you about that. What do you want from them? When do you want me to contact you? Like you said, if you fall and get a cut, scrape, am I okay to take care of it? Maybe a parent wants you to call so that they know. You just need to sit down and have open conversation.
And what about just when do you call a doctor? When do you call 911? When is it too much?
Well, we cover some of that in the class. We talk about, if a child is choking, obviously the first call is 911. We talk about 911. They will get a hold of you, but we want to make sure the child's taken care of. So we walk through different scenarios in class, and those are scenarios they can bring up when they talk to you.
Okay. And the other thing with whenever you come into a new situation with a babysitter and into your home, can you kind of leverage your other kids to kind of help the babysitter out as far as, here's where these things are kept or anything like that?
You can. I think if you have older kids, that helps them be involved, with what's going on with the babysitter coming in. So, yeah.
Is there anything else that I should do if I want to prepare my home for a babysitter?
I think making sure that depending on the age of your kids, there's plenty of things for them to do. If it's a baby, there's plenty of diapers, there's plenty of bottles made, all of those kinds of things. So they're not picking up the phone and going, oh, I forgot to ask you about this. Where do I find that? So.
Let's talk about a little bit more training. So do you recommend babysitters know CPR?
Absolutely.
And then what about just basic first aid?
Basic first aid is another one. We cover very, very minimal first aid because the class is so long already, so we can't cover everything. So we do talk about some basic first aid, but that's one of the first things we talk about is taking a friends and family CPR class. We highly recommend that. And then we do put together a smaller first aid kit, just little things that they can throw in their bag to bring over.
So what do we have in here?
So we just have a couple of antiseptic wipes to clean off a cut or scrape that we get. Some antibiotic ointment, and it would be children's if we didn't have some fun Band-Aids.
Oh, of course. So we've got some fun different
Absolutely.
So, and let's talk a little bit about this class. So say I am a parent and I would like to, and my child has come to me and said, I want to start babysitting, I want to start earning some side money, I like hanging out with kids. What do you recommend as far as, is my kid ready to babysit?
That's a great question. Regardless of whether you think they're ready, they can come to the class. I think that helps them understand what the expectation and how important a babysitter is and what that really means. But every kid is different. We see kids from 10 to 13 about in class. Their maturity level, they're all very different, right? So it's really a matter of you knowing your child and how you feel about them going forward with that.
And how do they kind of get themselves out there once you feel they're ready as to be a babysitter?
So that's a great question. You as a parent would be a great resource for them, whether it's through work or your church, your neighborhood. A lot of the neighborhoods have groups now, that they can also get connected with.
So one thing we were talking about earlier with learning how to do things is obviously that children like babies, are different than your 5-year-old running around.
Right.
Is there anything you recommend if specifically if your babysitter is going to be with a baby or your child wants to babysit and they want to largely deal with babies? Are there anything else that you think that they should know?
Well, one of the things we put together, and we do it at the end of the class because everybody is very excited about handling the babies.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So we have the babies. We teach them how to change a diaper, proper way to change a diaper. We teach them how to swaddle and when to swaddle to help soothe the babies. We teach them how to feed the babies. We talk about questions to ask the parents about feeding times, all of those things.
So just for instance, what kinds of questions would you ask to be my goodness, specifically, happy Friday, everyone. So times for a bottle, those kinds of things?
Yes, absolutely. What time do they usually eat? Burping. We talk
yeah.
about the burping, right? What's the best way to burp your child? Because they can be different. All of those things they can kind of talk through.
Looks like we have a question.
Should I be contacting the babysitter if I'm away for more than a couple of hours?
You always used to see that. It used to be, I'm going to go get out on the payphone and call the babysitter. Now it's as easy as a text or a FaceTime. Yeah, as a parent, do you recommend checking in?
I think it's really up to the parent what they feel comfortable with. I think, to start, if that's what makes you feel better, then you absolutely want to do that. And as you become, like, you have a babysitter that you are very comfortable with, and you probably would not want to do that. Right, so
only if we're running late or something crazy is going on.
Absolutely. So it's really up to the parent what they feel good about.
Okay. That's going to wrap it up for this week of Mom Talks. Thanks for joining us. And next week we're going to have something that kind of piggybacks on what we were talking about here. We're going to be going over CPR and first aid. So we're talking infants and kids. Obviously we're not going to be able to certify you by watching this video, but it is a lot of good information for first-time parents, or if you've seen this before and you just need a refresher, because everybody should have a refresher on CPR. So we invite you to tune in next week, Friday at 11. We'll see you then.